Good afternoon. Welcome to the first ever New York Liberty Intersectional Pride panel featuring Black, Indigenous, and people of color. We all owe a debt of gratitude to the New York Liberty organization for their decades of service as trailblazers and national voices at the forefront of diversity and inclusion efforts in professional sports. So before we get started, I want to thank the New York Liberty for creating space for critical conversations that centers those of us who are often at the margins. Thank you for demonstrating that our voices, our identities, and our experiences matter. All right, so I'm excited to be here with y'all today. My name is Dr. T.M. Robinson Mosley, but everyone calls me Mosley, like Oprah or Beyonce. And today, I'm honored to serve as the moderator for our discussion. By trade, I am a counseling psychologist and a licensed therapist who serves as a sports mental health expert. So through my consulting firm, I partner with world-class brands like the NCAA, the WNBA, the NBA, and the NFL to help teams develop specialized mental health tools and resources for elite athletes and those who support them. After years of working with athletes in my private practice, I created the Sports Mental Health and Wellness Playbook, which is a turnkey practical guide and suite of services designed specifically for sports organizations. Early this month, I had actually been invited to serve as the moderator after leading a series of virtual mental health and wellness workshops for the Black Alliance Network, which is the Black employee network of the Brooklyn Nets. When Alicia Howard, the director of communications and PR for the Liberty, reached out to me, I said yes immediately, even before I knew who was on the panel or what was expected. And now I'm super pumped. Especially because the themes of the discussion really resonate with my own journey. When I came out 20 years ago as a teenager in Mobile, Alabama, my parents and most of my family disowned me. While many of my high school friends prepared to celebrate graduation, prom, and college acceptances with their families, I prepared to join the ranks of queer and trans homeless teens and young adults. I was devastated. My coming out experience was probably the most traumatic and defining experiences of my life. It was probably my lowest point. And if there's definitely no greater education than adversity, I knew that I had to become a very quick study. Ironically, I made it through this painful period of my life by heavily relying on the lessons my parents instilled in me. As a kid, when I felt defeated, they never let me quit on myself, and they pushed me to be curious and to problem solve when I encountered setbacks or challenges. They encouraged me to always be my best and to do my best and to practice gratitude even if I came up short. But most importantly, they taught me that if I was ever scared or I was lost or I had no idea where to go or what to do, I should always look for the helpers. You can always spot the helpers, as I say, because, we are the folks running towards the proverbial fire while everyone else is trying to get out of Dodge. But throughout my life, these helpers have taken many forms. From my teammate in college who refused to accept rent money from me when she moved me into her apartment during my senior year when I didn't have a place to live, to the coaches, the professors, and the mentors who became chosen family. These women of color have had an incalculable impact on my life. In fact, they ultimately changed the trajectory of it. They saw something in me. They made their support indelible. And that's what made it possible for me to have access to opportunities that led to my ability to rise from a homeless college kid to one of the youngest deans in the Ivy League by the time I was 27. I would not be here without them. Their love and investment in me was both life-giving and life-saving. And because of that, it is my greatest honor, my pleasure, and my joy to be a helper. And today, I'm thrilled to be joined by a group of dynamic leaders and helpers in industries across the unique landscape of kind of the professional work that we do. I'm excited to learn about their journeys, how they've navigated their intersecting identities, and what they're doing to live their best lives and perhaps even their best quarantine lives these days. So over the next 60 minutes, we have the privilege of hearing directly from them. So I'm going to jump right into introducing and chatting up our panelists, and then we're going to jump into what I think is going to be an incredible discussion. So our first panelist is Terri Acosta, who is entering her second season as the head athletic trainer of the New York Liberty. Terri is a member of the LGBTQIA+ community and is known for establishing training environments where all athletes feel welcomed, feel safe, and feel valued. Prior to beginning her role with the Liberty, Acosta spent a decade in the collegiate arena as a head athletic trainer for several colleges. However, it's important to note she is no stranger to the W. She worked with the championship 2003 WNBA Detroit Shock, where she was just mission critical for that championship team. She's originally from San Antonio and is a double graduate of the University of North Texas. So it's great to have you, Terri.
It's great to be here. Thank you.
We often don't get to hear from athletic trainers who really are the unsung heroes on every team. So if you could tell us, are you still there, Terri?
Yeah, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yeah. So if you could tell us something we wouldn't know about you by reading your bio.
Okay. Well, hi, everybody. Happy to be here. I am I call myself the background person. So, you see the athletes out there, they're all up front. We're the ones running behind, doing, whatever needs to be done to put our best foot forward for the athletes that are on the court. Something you wouldn't know about me. Let's see. I mean, something that some people know, but not everybody, obviously, out there, and I'm proud of. A couple years ago, I decided, I needed a change in life. I needed to, find a little bit more self-esteem, and I needed to say, what can I do to prove to myself that I got this again. Sometimes we go through those lulls. So I was like, I think I'm just going to do the Camino de Santiago. I'm going to walk across Spain. So basically, that's what I did. One foot in front of the other, started in France and then, walked all the way across. And it's something I'm pretty proud of, but it's also something that's kind of my journey throughout life and throughout the way to say, one step in front of the other, kind of going about and, knowing that there's another day to look forward to. Yeah.
That's remarkable. It's very, I think it's so remarkable in terms of thinking about your journey of walking across Spain and starting in France and being intentional about putting one step in front of the other. Makes a lot of sense when we start talking and thinking about our own journeys, whether personal or professional. So excited to have you here.
Thank you.
Our second panelist is Michelle Perez, who's the associate publisher at Go magazine. She is the queer daughter of West Indian and Caribbean transplants, born and raised on the Upper West Side. She fuses the rich, lush history of her native islands with the gritty, beautiful reality of the New York City streets, which really inform her unique perspective. Interestingly, thinking about similarly to Terri about this unique journey, after 10 plus years in finance, she's returned to her true passions, which are advocacy, social justice, and the written word. It's great to see you, Michelle.
Lovely to be here. Thank you for having me. So I'm really excited.
Oh man, I'm pumped. Your work and your words beautifully amplify the experiences and the voices of queer and trans people of color. What's something surprising that we wouldn't know about you?
Well, I think that folks would be surprised to know that I am a spoken word poet and an actress. That's like my passion. I was in a social justice advocacy theater group called 2050 Legacy, and we were inducted into the Fringe Festival in 2016. We were able to go to Mexico for almost a month, live with the Mayan community, relate as much as we could without the language barrier, or with the language barrier rather. That's one of my proudest moments that we went to Fringe and we went on that stage and we had 3 shows. Pardon me. And it's one thing to speak about injustice, and it's another thing to put it on display for folks to see. And I'm most proud of my 2050 legacy family and of that experience.
Yeah, thinking about how powerful it is not only to capture those experiences and to share them with people, but to be in community and in solidarity to do that. So again, I'm seeing, kind of the theme about kind of walking with intention, walking with purpose, doing things that are really meaningful, which is a theme that kind of all of you share. So I can't wait to hear, more from you as well.
Thank you.
All right. So our third panelist is Zerandrian, who is a thought leader, social entrepreneur, and racial equity professional with over 2 decades of experience. Zerandrian is a lecturer in the Columbia University School of Social Work and founder and principal strategist of the Ignant Intellectual Group, LLC. The Ignant Intellectual Group is a New York City headquartered consulting and strategy firm that guides organizations and companies in the process of transforming themselves into anti-racist organizations with the goal of becoming healing organizations. As a trainer and facilitator, she focuses on social justice movement building, identities, privilege, reframing masculinities, queer theory, non-binary trans identities, gender and sexuality norms, and youth leadership development. Thanks for being here, Z.
Hey.
So you hail from my chosen hometown of New Orleans. Who dat?
You already know.
Your firm specializes in helping organizations reimagine themselves as transformative healing spaces.
Yeah.
Tell us what you bring to this work that we won't find by reading your official bio.
I might have to actually log off and log back on. Something is going on.
All right. So we'll see you when you hop back in. We're going to keep your spot warm. Okay. So in terms of thinking about moving forward, and this is an activity that so many of us are having to do right now as we're on Zoom, is practicing a lot of grace and practicing a lot of patience. So we'll keep Z's spot warm. As soon as he gets back, we'll make sure that she pops back in. So, and we kind of, without any delay, I want to kind of jump in to talking about exactly why we're here. Let's dive into thinking about intersecting identities and adversity and kind of living our best lives.
A mixed race woman. My mother was born and raised in Jamaica. My father was born and raised in Puerto Rico, and I was born and raised here. So I have a lot of different mixes to me. There's been a lot of prejudice being a woman of color, being a mixed woman of color, being a queer woman. I myself am bisexual, and I've had instances where I've had prejudice because my last name is Perez. Prejudice in the finance world where I worked for 10 years, and I was a PMA, which is a personal marketing assistant, and I can count on this hand less than 5 of the amount of women that we had as financial advisors. Everybody was an assistant. And it's something that has been pervasive in our country and around the world for eons, unfortunately. And I try my best to put my best foot forward, but it's hard sometimes, like it's hard for us folks to constantly be the bigger person or to constantly be the one that is the educator and educating someone on how to treat us and how to have respect for us. It's been challenging, and unfortunately, we still have a long way to go. So it's something that's been pervasive in my life and in all facets. But I just try to keep an open mind and a good heart as much as I can.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Michelle, you said so many things around not only being one of very few, but standing out for reasons that are connected to your identity, being my reframe, as I like to say, a positive outlier, where your contribution is unique and significant and important, but it also makes you different. And I think, Terri, I would love to hear from you because working in sports, being a head athletic trainer, you have a lot of experience with being in the same space, of being someone who stands out, not only for your excellence, but because no one else looks like you.
Right, right. So I'm originally from Texas, and decided, sports is what I want to be and what I want to be around. And being Mexican American, you don't always see Mexican Americans out, sometimes in the background, in the front, slowly,
Yeah.
obviously things are changing. And so even with the places that I've been, I was in Texas for a while, then up in Detroit, over in LA, and then back, New York, this area. So it's been different, because there's even times where it's like, oh, you get the jokes, about and it just happens. It's sad to say it that way, because it's like it just happens, and you got to put that best foot forward and move beyond the jokes that happen every once in a while about being Mexican or whatnot. But it's hard, But at the same time, you find that own excellence within, your light within, and just let it shine for all to see. That's one of the biggest things, that just going back to my childhood with my parents, like, you are who you are, and you just you got to do your best in all you do every day, and just let it shine. And so basically that's what I've done throughout the whole journey of sports. And, and even then, like, now I work with basketball, but I used to work in football. And, there's just there's a different, different vibes throughout the sports too. So, every day,
Sure.
and it goes back to what I said earlier, just every day, one step in front of the other, and just putting that best foot forward, and being who I am, and showing, that I'm more than when you first see me, the color of my skin. I'm so much more than exactly what's in front of you right now.
So much of that is so important when we talk about our humanity and what we're bringing not only to these organizations, but how powerful it is for us to be able to situate who we are with what we do. And that not only takes a great deal of conviction and courage, it takes a great deal of support. And so as I, listen to both of you, there are some really strong lines about where we come from and the folks who we come from. So whether we were and are connected to these people by blood or by choice, we certainly didn't get here on our own. So women in sports, we know that, we're only as strong as the team who supports us. So who helped you get to where you are today? Tell us about their influence on your life. And we can start with you, Terri.
Okay. My parents are very influential in my life. My parents and my sisters. Even now, every day we have a family text thread in the morning. So it's usually good morning, and it's usually a prayer of some sort.
Mm-hmm.
My middle sister will send out a prayer for the day for the whole family. So there's a lot of that influence of my family behind me. And just just looking back at even their lives, like looking back at my parents' lives and my mother's life in particular, she tells the stories of when she was a kid. And she went out in the cotton field with my grandmother and picked cotton. And also, like, growing up, recently she just told us a story about how she had to go to kindergarten. And so she was, she spoke Spanish, also spoke English, but had to go to kindergarten along with all the other Caucasian people in her class. But then Caucasian people got to go to first grade, whereas she had to stay behind for the second kindergarten. So basically, it was kind of in the system down in Texas at that point in time, like, okay, you're in school, you all start together on the same foot, but then, systematically, there was an extra year added on before you went and caught up. So already everybody else was ahead a year and they stayed behind. So just kind of hearing those stories of how they were brought up and things that influenced them in their life. And truthfully, just kind of getting through it. They're very optimistic in how they see life and how they see things around them. So that's kind of definitely been a huge influencer in my life with my parents behind me.
Wow. I mean, tremendous support. And as as we think about kind of the mixed bag of what it's like to be on the receiving end of these intersecting systems of oppression, there also is this really remarkable kind of resilience around your grandmother's legacy of being able to move forward while also mourning and acknowledging what's happened, but being able to kind of pass that down to you on what that means to be intentional and to be deliberate. And so that support sounds like it's been instrumental.
It's very.
Michelle, similarly, tell me about your support. How did you get here?
I would have to say my mother first and foremost. I have four siblings, and of course, I'm the baby of five, and my siblings are so much older than me. My closest in age is 6 years older, so I'm a very old soul. I would say by choice, but probably not, just because I was raised with siblings who were 16 when I was born, so I have a huge age gap. And my mother was born in 1950s, raised in Jamaica. So we had to speak the Queen's English, and we had to be very astute, and we had elocution classes every weekend. My sister Che and I would sit, and she would, here's the dictionary, you write these words, and she gave me my love of language. She gave me my love of words. And she herself was an activist. She was a social worker. She worked for Neighborhood Outreach Center in Hell's Kitchen, and then Youth Action Program in Harlem, and then Voter Participation Act further up in Harlem on 125th. So I was always around. One of my first memories is going to rallies for the Central Park Five, because YAP was actually right on that corner where the boys entered. And she gave this fire within me to be a person of substance and to be a strong Black woman, and to be a woman who is raised to take care of my brothers and sisters, not just in my family, but proverbially. So I've learned to always be the person that I wish someone had been for me, and that's my goal in life. Because I grew up in New York City housing. I was born and raised in the projects. I slept in the same bed with my mother till I was almost 19 years old, because we just didn't have the space. There were a lot of things that I wish I had done differently. However, I know now in my older age, and I learned a lot in her life, and I learned a lot in her death. She passed away in 2017. And thank you. She had lupus, so I'm just happy that she's no longer in pain. But through her pain and through my pain with her, I've learned so much about acceptance of myself, acceptance of the lack of my melanin, acceptance of everything about me that I didn't like as a child, because all my siblings are a lot darker than I am. And I was the child that would cry to God and pray, please make me brown, when I would wake up, and I had a lot of that hatred. And she, kind of just beat it out of my head and said, you are beautiful, you are worthy, and you have a voice, that you need to make a difference in this world. And I live by that every day.
That is incredibly powerful, particularly around not only the legacy, very similar to what Terri talked about, kind of this legacy that these women in our lives passed down to us and modeled for us. But not only that, but they poured into us and showed us value until we started believing it.
That's right.
And I think there is something really powerful when we think about, our community, and we think about being queer and trans folks of color. There is this process of having to have radical acceptance, which is a lot of what you were talking about, Michelle, about not making meaning, not internalizing so much of the vitriol, so much of the stereotypes that people place on us, and being able to find things to not only be satisfied about ourselves, but things to love and things to really embrace. And so, Michelle, as you were talking, it made me think about another famous Michelle, Michelle Obama.
I love her.
And her book is actually behind me. But
I haven't read over there in my bookshelf. That's my lady.
Oh, it's a great book.
Thank you.
Well, you're a pro, so I'm gonna hop right back in and just ask you the question that we just started on, and I'm gonna toss it to you.
I don't know the question.
Oh yeah, I'm reading. I'm gonna go ahead. I got you.
Oh, I thought you meant the one that you just left. Go ahead.
Oh yeah, no, I hadn't read it yet. You good? So, as we were quickly talking about how powerful it is for us to not only be in community, and we've been on the receiving end of so many blessings of women of color before us. And I mentioned there was another famous Michelle Obama, who apparently is all of our best friends in our minds, who has a book that we were talking about, Becoming. And we are constantly always in the process of becoming. So throughout our journey, both Michelle and Terri have been talking about having to demonstrate mental agility by constantly having to shapeshift and engage in learning and unlearning and relearning. So if you could tell us about a challenge or a barrier you encountered that shook you and shook your confidence, but ultimately you overcame it.
I think because of the work that I do, which is like often in person or virtually in person conversations, I have to be ready for anything that's gonna come out somebody's mouth. In all the iterations that it may come out their mouth, whether it's subtle, whether it's blatant. And some people think that it's like the hardest thing to be called like the N-word as a Black person. And sometimes that's actually not the hardest thing. Sometimes having an experience dismissed is far more difficult than somebody calling me. I say the N-word personally, but I ain't gonna say it right now because, I'm gonna be respectful. But that's not I think being Black, non-binary, trans-masculine is a constant shapeshift, like every day. If I'm shapeshifting for Black folk as a Black American, and I'm shapeshifting as a non-binary person, or if I'm shapeshifting as my 73-year-old mother's child, if I'm shapeshifting, from an unexpected statement, if it's a structural barrier, if it's a combination of the two, like I just think it's a perpetual, like I say mulberry. We run around a lot of mulberry bushes, so we've been to the matrix. But it's just the bottom line is that for me, it's a incessant, everyday. But I'm a very overall joyful person. But I always honor and acknowledge that I'm always bending and flexing and shapeshifting, and if I choose. But lately, I just kind of been like. When I met you, Mosley, we were, I don't remember how many years younger you and Nadia were from me, but I'm the same person, but I'm also older. I mean, I do see how older people really be like, I don't give a damn. I really don't care. Like, I don't have on a bra right now. I don't really care.
Speak on it.
Like, if I have to choose showing up and showing up with a bra, I'm not doing all that. Like some things I just have to let fall that don't quote unquote matter. Like when my computer started acting up just now, I was like, it will work.
It will work.
If I'm supposed to talk to them through the chat, that's how I'm gonna talk to them. Like at this point, I have to choose what rises to the top of my concern, and everything can't rise to the top.
Oh, Z, you.
That's powerful. Thank you. I needed to hear that.
I'm just saying.
Right to the
It's
top.
like you be on a 1 o'clock. Y'all didn't know I didn't have no bra on before I told you. You know what? Because I know how to make it look. I know what to do, but I really think at this point and we COVID, and they got a virus running around here that the people acting like it's gone, and I gotta wear a mask that is very uncomfortable.
Z, you have given us so much.
I love how you just shut me up, Mosley. That's so, you better moderate, Mosley.
So many gems.
You better moderate.
And what I love about that, and you said something, and you said a lot of things that really resonated, but there was something that connected to what Terri and Michelle talked about earlier, and you said something about having an experience dismissed. And the experience of not only having to do this significant emotional labor, but then having your experience in humanity invalidated, having that be a core experience and a barrier and a challenge. So, Michelle or Terri, are there some parallels there for you?
I mean, the shape shifting, I've often been told I can be a chameleon of sorts in certain situations. You put yourself in a situation, just walk in a room and you kind of go with the flow. It's funny because, so I just drove back from Texas the last 2 days, and I decided, I'm gonna put a book on Audible, and I put on the book, Small Great Things. And, it's pretty interesting because, character in the story, Ruth, talks about, she does everything, goes to Dalton, goes off, gets her college degree, goes to Yale nursing school. She does all the things that you're supposed to, and then finds herself in a situation. And I'm not done with the book yet, but finds herself in a situation that basically, finds herself in jail and kind of fighting for her freedom again. And it's funny because like you see that and you see her reflecting like, wow, like, I put myself in these situations. And it's similar in the fact of saying, as a chameleon, you kind of, enter a room and you kind of within yourself, you rise to whatever occasion it is. And it's interesting to do. It's interesting to have to do more so, I think. When it actually just kind of has me looking back on myself and my journey as I've progressed through life.
Yes.
That's powerful. To dovetail on what you both have said, I have become a habitual code switcher. And that was how I was raised. It was, I was raised in a very old school Caribbean household. So what happens in the house, family business is family business. This is this and that is that. And how you act with your family and how you act with your friends are different. How you act with your friends and how you act with people in authority are different. And I had to, I had to put on, what my mother called in her, God bless her, it's 1950, she was born, we can forgive her. But I had to put on the white voice. When you were on the phone, Michelle, you have to have your white voice because then they can't discriminate against you because if you sound like them, you're not an other. And there was always this concept of other that was very prominent in everything that I experienced in my life. I went to Catholic school because, thankful for my mother got me into, some scholarships. So I was able to go to Catholic school. And, being in a school where I went to school with predominantly all the kids that I grew up with in New York City housing and Amsterdam projects, it was a totally different animal, and then I had to learn how to adapt to them and how to make them, like me.
And so much of what y'all have been talking about is this idea that we carry not only a legacy, but a tremendous amount of community and cultural wealth. And so as you were talking about navigating adversity and shape-shifting and being a chameleon, do you tap into those strengths when you start thinking about identity and thinking about entering into some of these spaces, particularly in the areas you both work in, which sometimes can be unwelcoming?
I just want to offer that I'm not an outlier by any means. I'm not the exceptional. I'm not special. I am the product and the result of communities that are often overlooked. I didn't make it out. There are people who shapeshift every day, all day long. I am not the best at racial equity strategy. I am more palatable. I am more quote unquote articulate, but I am not the smartest and the best at this topic. And so I think that's really important so for example, before we started, I offered that we not read bios. Like for what? We not set the tone for this pushing forward of this narrative of like, let me read about this person and either people opt in to continue to listen or opt out for whatever reason. So I just want to offer that before we move. For me, I'm pretty sure I want to be clear that I am not a positive outlier, like, or a negative outlier. I don't know, but no, none of that.
No, well, no. I mean, I appreciate your perspective in terms of thinking like that doesn't resonate for me. In terms of the term on my end, it's less of thinking about it as an individual experience and more contextualized in terms of some of the spaces we occupy. So sometimes based on our identities, we are outnumbered. And sometimes we may not have people who look like us. So the positive outlier and the reframe of that is more about us affirming that our contribution is significant and that even though we may not be in a position where people may think it's powerful, we always are. And so in terms of thinking about the bio piece too, we must be in musical chairs of technical difficulties because I missed that because of my technical power outages during our
right.
But in thinking about these environments and also thinking about the way that we engage with our work and also have to balance and manage sometimes imposter syndrome and feeling like, okay, I may not be the best, but I know these things and I have this unique contribution. Those things take a lot of emotional labor, and sometimes they can take a toll on us. So, I would be, remiss not to talk about mental health as a therapist. And so I have to know, to your point, as we are in this kind of trifecta of simultaneous pandemics, our communities are being disproportionately impacted, not only from the human cost of COVID-19 and police brutality and staggering unemployment. We have the erasure of Black and Brown, cis and transgender women from the narrative, gender nonconforming folks. And we often don't see ourselves reflected in many, if not most of the spaces that we find ourselves in. So I have to know from both of you, and I'll kick it back to you, Terri. How do you prioritize and take care of yourself in the midst of this? How do you protect your peace and prioritize your wellness?
Well, some of that is kind of funny because of the fact that what I like to do to kind of escape the crazy around me, I enjoy nature. I enjoy nature. I have dogs that I go hiking with. Like, I need to honestly disconnect sometimes from people. I need to shut down. And then one of the hobbies I do, fly fishing. It's not something that you see many women who fly fish, and then also many Mexican American women who fly fish. Although it's obviously evolving in its own right as well. But there's a disconnect I need sometimes. I just got to be alone, and I got to be alone in nature, because you hear all the buzzing around you, whether it's at work, or especially right now in this society that's going on. We engage in Zoom calls, we engage in Zoom card nights, we engage in game nights and all this stuff, and you hear tons of stuff going on. You want to take in, and I say, as a healer, as an athletic trainer, I'm a healer. I'm a background person. I take on a lot of people's whatever it may be, whatever their ailment or whatever they're hurting with, I take it on as well. So sometimes there's that disconnection for me that I totally need to be able to shut away. It's something that actually has my mental wellness kind of going overboard right now, knowing I'm going to be in a bubble in Florida with my team, with no escape for 3 to 4 months possibly. So I'm planning on taking my fly fishing gear and finding a little pond in the middle of this campus, and you're going to see me out there, probably out there just chilling by myself. But that's some of the stuff I do.
So much of what you said about having to be incredibly intentional and being unapologetic about putting your wellness and your self-care at the forefront is so important now, in particular when we think about women and women of color. Because we're often conditioned to take care of everybody else before we take care of ourselves, and then also often at our own expense. And sometimes a lot of the work we do, we occupy some of those spaces and roles as well, where it doesn't feel like there's a lot of space for us to take great care. But self-care is so connected to community care and how we show up for others. Because if we aren't kind of pouring into ourselves, if we aren't doing things that are restorative, we can't show up for other people. And so your point around unplugging is a very valuable one, because that piece is incredibly important, because we're always engaged now. And when we think about, even we're on a Zoom call now, so much of what we're having to do to adapt is virtual. So Z, you occupy a lot of content and time in virtual spaces. What does it look like for you to be able to unplug and recharge?
So I'm about to move because my current apartment is really dark. And so that's an element of access to be able to be like, I'm in New York and I'm just going to move because I need sunlight, but I do. I say no a lot, which is hard for some people to accept. And I spend probably 95% of my time by myself anyway. So these are ways I meditate frequently. I try to move my body a lot. Yeah, I think really because I'm centered and I know what fits with what I'm called to do and what doesn't, it makes it easier for me to funnel out the things that even if people are reaching out, asking for things, I know instinctively, yes, that fits or no, that does not align. So it's easier for me to say no to things that don't align. Whereas if you're unclear about what you're supposed to be doing, you might say yes to stuff that doesn't quite align with who you are or where you're going.
Mm-hmm.
So at this point in my life, I kind of can feel whether I should say yes or no.
Oh, there you are.
Oh, Michelle is
I'm
back.
back.
Welcome
Sorry
back,
about that.
Michelle. No, again, like this is
Zoom
what
doesn't
it
want to
is.
see us winning today.
So I'll give you a second to catch your breath and catch you up. We were just talking about the importance, particularly of women of color and queer and trans folks of color being unapologetic about prioritizing our self-care and our overall wellness. Bell Hooks has this great quote that in order for us to be, self-loving, we have to give ourselves the love that we desire from others. And that's incredibly foundational. And Z was just mentioning about the importance of unplugging. And unplugging is, could be a variety of things from kind of getting off the internet, getting in some sun, fly fishing, as Terri just told us. But it also means having very clear boundaries and saying no, and knowing that no is a complete sentence and no is a complete answer. And we don't owe anyone an explanation because those are our boundaries. And that's how we kind of protect our peace and our energy. So in terms of thinking about how we keep those boundaries while also, to Z's point, having some alignment in terms of what we do. So instead of trying to Houdini ourselves into opportunities that may or may not fit, we identify for ourselves what's meaningful and purposeful. And then we see if the opportunity or the engagement or the person or the relationship fits. So can you tell me about some of your practices around mental health and wellness and protecting that?
Wow.
That was a quick and dirty recap.
No, I appreciate it. Thank you very much. And I'm sorry if I interrupted anybody.
No, it's great.
I try my very best to keep myself as centered as possible. It's very hard, especially with quarantine and me not being allowed to go outside or not being able to go outside or fearful. And I did have a little bit of a struggle for the past couple of months with that. And, with everything happening with the BLM movement and going to protests and being more scared of what will happen to my family than, the virus that's out here prevalent, it wears on your soul. And what I've tried to do is I try to meditate, and I try to be forgiving of myself, because in meditation, I learned that I would get myself even more stressed out, because I'm like, why can't I meditate? Why can't I be calm? Why can't I sit with myself? And I had to learn to kind of be like water and allow myself to just flow. Let that energy, let that feeling flow. Like, hey, Michelle, okay, you can't focus right now. What's on your mind, girl? What is that? Okay, well, that's bothering you. It's a feeling. It's going to pass. Either we're going to A, fix it, B, resolve it, or C, we're going to let it flow right through. And it's easier said than done. And I struggle with it every single day. But I do my very best. I like to paint. I write poetry. I have dance parties with my dogs. They don't like it, but I don't care. I just, try to do things that spark joy, a little bit of joy in my life. I call my sister, I harass her, and harass my chosen family. I call them my cousins, my very best friends. I have a really good friend, Megan. She lives in Colorado, and I don't know where I would be in life without her. And I'm grateful that I have that kind of network. And I know that a lot of people don't. And sometimes it's hard to sit with yourself. And I know that for a fact. But it's learning to have that self-love and self-acceptance. And it's an uphill battle. I struggle every day, and it's okay to struggle, because we have to unlearn a lot to learn something new. And that's just where I'm at with it. And I hope that folks can, take it with a grain of salt, but all you have to do is try to love yourself and look in the mirror like you're your own best friend and say, hey girl, you're messing up, or hey girl, you're beautiful today.
I mean, you were absolutely right, and these affirmations are so important. And I want to come back to that, but I also want to, affirm very much what all of you have been saying as we talk about self-care and what that means, and the fact that the kind of disproportionate expectation of caretaking falls on people who look like us, falls on women of color in both personal and professional capacities. As we are in the throes of this pandemic, or actually multiple pandemics, we bear the brunt of that. The folks who are on the margins, we bear the brunt of that. And on top of that, it's having to really contend with everything else being harder, right? Like, we can't go places, we can't do things that we enjoy. Our homes have become places that were never meant to function in the way that they are now. They are workspaces. For some of us, they're daycares. For some of us, they are lunchrooms and entertainment spaces and gyms, right? Like, so in the grand scheme of a day, even within an hour or two, we are shape-shifting and shifting from role to role, which is exhausting. Everything is exhausting. So, on my end of working with teams and individuals and folks in clinical practice, what we're seeing is a lot of grief and a lot of loss, and a lot of trying to figure out what does that mean, and how do I function when everything is so much more difficult. So we're seeing a lot of sleep disturbances. Since we're all experiencing this kind of collective trauma, time is really disoriented. So some of us are sleeping longer or not sleeping at all. And there's just a general kind of fatigue and a lot of sadness there. So what you're saying about prioritizing this matters now more than ever. And for some of us, in terms of thinking about being still or doing activities that once brought us joy, it's also important to recognize that we may have to recalibrate. Maybe we can't do all the things that we were able to do that initially brought us joy. Maybe we can only do a small amount of it. And so being able to recognize that there are things that we have to continue doing that are restorative. So we started a few minutes late, so we're gonna run probably about 10 or 15 more minutes. If we can hang, y'all can hang with us.
Of course.
All right. Yes. I got a couple more questions I want to ask y'all. It's pride, right? And I have a lot of pride memories. I'm sure some of y'all have some pride memories too. The good, the bad, and the ugly. And when we think about pride, just the core aspect of it, it's a celebration. It really is. And so I do want to shift because the celebration and the affirmations are things that we even have to do for ourselves. So I would love to know, and Terri, we can start with you. Tell us either about, a recent moment that you were incredibly proud, or a moment, it doesn't even have to be recent, that you were proud. And how did you celebrate you? How did you celebrate yourself?
Oh, goodness. Recent moment. Goodness. That's kind of hard.
It could even be one that's recent past.
Yeah, I try to celebrate myself, whenever I can. Actually, that's a lie. Actually, most people tell me I need to celebrate myself in most cases, if that makes sense, because once again, it goes back to being the background person and kind of, it's like, yeah, I've done some pretty cool stuff in my life. I've
You're a
been involved.
champion, Terri.
Yeah, I'm a champion. I've worked in the WNBA. I decided to open up a pet store in Jersey City, just on a dare from my ex-wife, and I got that going for 7 years. So it's kind of like there are things that I should celebrate. But it's funny because every day, like, I try to stay humble in all I do, but I am proud of the network around me, if that makes sense. And I say that network, I say my friends, I say my family. My family's amazing, but I say the friends I've chosen that have become my family. I'm pretty proud of them, and the fact that I can engage in those moments of just, honestly, just of just being together and kind of enjoying the eclectic group that we are and who we are. But I try. It's funny because I don't know, to be proud. I mean, I am proud of the things I've accomplished in life, but I should celebrate myself more. I just don't necessarily do that.
Well, I don't want you to shit on yourself, right? Because often if we say, we should, we just by virtue of saying should, we invalidate that what we're doing is not enough or is wrong in some way. But I will say, head trainer, that being able to name these moments that you have accomplished something really dope is a cool muscle that you get to get some more reps in. That's not uncommon for a lot of us. We show up so hard to celebrate so many other people that often we don't have the same grace for ourselves. We don't have the same celebration. So I'm curious, Z, what are your experiences with kind of the affirmations of naming the accomplishments, the proud moments, and how do you celebrate?
Oh God, I'm the friend who celebrates the most small things. So I'm probably gonna show up to celebrate it. At my last job, we partied in ways that really disrupted these white supremacist norms that you can only party at retirement, at somebody's birthday. No, we are partying because we party fathers who had children. We've partied. I mean, it just, somebody started a small business somewhere else. We having a party. We got new co-facilitators. We having a party. And it don't have to be huge. I'm about to celebrate because I'm going to take a nap. For real. The nap ministry ministers to me. If you don't follow them on Instagram, you should follow them. So there's a small park. I live on 130th between 5th and Lenox, and there's a small park on 130th and 5th that was closed for since March. It opened last week. I celebrate that because that means that I have somewhere to go where I don't have to walk Harlem. I can sit in the sun. That's a celebration to me. So it's just, or I'll be like, Shayna, what you doing? You want to go walk? Celebration. I mean, big things, small things. You can find. I'm always been a person that's deeply in gratitude all the time. I will walk down the street just saying thank you, just whatever. So celebration and joy are really important to me. And it's funny you mentioned pride because I actually forgot it was Pride we was a good while into June before I was like, wait a minute, it's June. Because of all this stuff going on, I just literally forgot it was Pride Month.
Well, Z, I think a lot of what you're saying, and it totally makes sense. I mean, I'd say that, all the time, these moments where it's like, oh, all right, I'm gay. It's June. Oh, it's my time, right? But it's
because I'm proud all the time, honey.
Indeed, these moments of pride, and then also reimagining celebration, and that celebrations are vital, and that celebrations should be consistent. And we often don't do enough of it. We do not do enough celebrating. We do not do enough honoring and valuing and loving in those ways. And that also starts with us. And so, Michelle, you had mentioned earlier around being really intentional about sitting with yourself and being still and being reflective. What does that look like if you think about your own kind of accomplishments and being proud and celebrating them?
Well, I'm in the same camp as Terri because I don't celebrate myself. I'm my own biggest critic, which is something that I'm constantly working on. But I am very proud of the work that I do at Go Magazine. I'm proud of our content and how we're shifting and changing and ever learning. I think that once you stop learning and growing, you're dead, whether you're an organization, whether you're a human being. And we are constantly growing and shifting. And I'm very proud of the work that we do there. I used to run a social club for queer women because we didn't have space. And I tried to, take, straight heteronormative spaces and make them queer and give folks a safe space. And I've met so many beautiful, beautiful women, men, thems, NBs, the gambit. And I call them my family. And you know, and even when I started at Go and I no longer could do that position, we're still very close. We have a group chat, we check in, you know, we use social media. I bump into folks on the street, I'm like, okay, hey, let's have a beach day. And I guess in a way that is a celebration. It's a celebration of friendship. It's a celebration of our love and our compassion and our shared want to be in each other's lives. So I think I am proud of the connections that I've made and the strides that I take every day to just, you know, be the best person I can for everybody.
That's incredibly powerful and really beautiful. And although, again, it sounds like you and Terri can have the same workout to, you know, really get some reps in.
That's right. We need to exchange numbers, Terri.
That's right.
Absolutely. Muscles. One thing that all of you talk about, which again, like goes back to you just being tremendous, transformative leaders and helpers, is that so much of your celebration and so much of the way that you show up is to create access and opportunity and space for others. There is this important aspect of recognizing that solidarity and humanity and kindness and compassion and equity and justice are foundational to our lives, to our health, to our relationships. And it also shows up in the way that you lead and the way that you love and the way that we kind of create space. And I think that's both intentional and powerful. And these are the kinds of things that build our movement and sustain our community in some really powerful, really indelible ways. So with that, I have a final question, and it's a little bit of a twist. But we've talked a lot about our own experiences, talked about the journey, both personally and professionally. And so I want you to think about advice that you would give to an LGBTQ plus young person of color. As you reflect on your journey, I want you to think about what kind of one piece of practical advice that you would give to this young person. But the twist is, I want you to offer the advice that you would give to your younger self. What would you say?
I'm excited for Z's answer because I need some gems, Z.
Yeah.
You go, Michelle. Well, it's fine. I just answered this question, so maybe I answered it in this Facebook group I'm in. Somebody asked, "What would you tell you?" It's nice. From college, but and so I would tell myself to stop relaxing my hair, stop perming your hair, stop processing your hair.
That's right.
I would tell my younger self to find you and then like build everything around that versus picking these symbolic things like go to school, go do this. No, find you first, and whatever supports that, you do that. I think it would have saved me a whole bunch of time. Yeah. A whole bunch of time. And I would have told myself back then, child, you queer as hell. I know they're not using that 80s, but sis, bro, whatever you are, and it's okay. Like, you know, I would have told myself that.
Nice.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I see some like definite kind of moments that resonate with both of you, Michelle and Terri.
Yep. Yeah. I'd say, just going on that, to one, believe in yourself. And I probably have to say that to myself even now, on a day-to-day basis. Yes. So like just truly, reflecting within and finding, kind of going back to, finding who you are, but believing in yourself, like knowing, hey, if you want to try this today, okay, go do it. Try it. All right. If you fail, no problem. Let's take that other step, but if you succeed and you enjoy it, keep doing. If you succeed and you don't enjoy it, okay, find yourself again. So you can find it yourself. And like I said, this is something on a daily, we should probably all say to ourselves, and believing in ourselves. But yeah, and then another thing, just build up your credit. That's so
Terri, you preaching.
That's right.
Yes,
That credit ain't no joke, Terri. Woo!
No joke.
Terri. Yeah, those are words again. Yes, younger self. If I had
Practical
known what I
advice.
know now,
Exactly.
things would have been different.
Yes, God.
But yes, there is something really really powerful around affirming who you are and being proud of that person. What about you, Michelle?
I would just tell myself to be kind to myself because I'm all I have, you know? I'm all I have. And the bottom line, you know, I have a support system I'm grateful for, but at the end of the day, it's just me. And I need to be kind to myself. I'm going to make mistakes, but I got to learn. Don't keep making the same mistakes and not learning and then wondering why you have the same result, you know? To always come from a place of love and to listen and absorb and process instead of being combative. And that was me when I was younger. I was very, you know, I was rageful and I'm strong and I'm independent and I know what I know. And it's like, I've learned that I know nothing. It's infinitesimal and I need to keep learning. And I need to, you know, I would tell that girl and that little girl still is in me. So I would tell myself, don't be afraid to share my truth unabashed, you know, and to speak. You know, we go on this traverse that we call life and we forget that there was no manual given to us. We weren't born with instructions, you know, and we need to be kinder to ourselves and to other folks too, you know, because hurt people and it's easier said than done, but we need to, you know, make space for loving ourselves and make space for forgiving and loving others as well.
Yeah. It's beautiful, Michelle. Is something powerful about being able to offer, again, this love and this kindness that we so desperately want from others. Being able to do that for ourselves. And also this consistent theme of what y'all all kind of mentioned around, you know, shouts to, you know, Chance the Rapper, turning your L's into lessons. So,
that's right.
Yeah, if things didn't go the way that I planned or I missed the mark, what did I learn? How can I engage this thing or this event or this person differently so that I get the outcome that I want, and not making meaning about me being inadequate or I'm not worthy because I didn't hit the mark this time, right? Like we play another game. You miss every shot you don't take. So we have to have that courage and the conviction and the kindness and the compassion for ourselves to be able to do that. So just for my own personal, like really, you know, quickie last question, like 30-second quick question. In terms of talking about being intentional about our joy, what is something that's currently giving y'all life? Like, what is pouring into you right now?
I mean, for me,
oh, go ahead.
Oh no, go for it. No, you start.
No, Terri.
For me, like, I mean, and it sounds crazy. I mean, I got a season to look forward to now. You know, I'm looking for, although I'm busting my butt trying to get ready for it. I'm thankful to be able to, like, okay, I've got a job and I've got something to look forward to in that as well. So yeah, that's one thing. And then, you know, I honestly, during this whole like quiet time, quarantine time, I've really connected with those around me, which is pretty cool. Not only family, but, you know, my girlfriend and my friends around me, kind of like really, really getting to know those around me. Whereas, you know, in any other situation, all the distractions would have been there as well. So, yeah.
Yes. What's giving you life, Michelle?
This, honestly, this conversation, this panel, I'm humbled. And I think more conversations like this need to happen on and off of Zoom and on and off of YouTube. And it's easier said than done, but this gives me life. And I'm excited for what's happening at Go and what we're about to do in our new ventures. And just, you know, I love words. I love to talk, which, you know, can be annoying at times, but I think that it's important to have conversation and to foster conversation. And yeah, I think that, you know, through writing with Go and working with our brilliant writing staff and our brilliant editor, that's what gives me life right now, and my friends and family.
I love it. What's giving you life, Z? What's pouring into you?
I think just knowing what could possibly come I know it feels like mad problematic outside, but we can literally create a liberated world.
That's
And I've
right.
always been like, we're not gonna get it in a pretty way. It's gonna take violence, and here we go. So let's do it. We can literally create magic amongst all this stuff.
From
Yeah,
madness
I
to
love-
magic.
Yeah, I love the nod to magic, because I mean we're magic.
Period.
Period. That's it. I mean, there's no qualifier. And when I think about exactly what you're saying, this watershed moment, this disruption of sorts, this revolution, it energizes me in a different way than I have seen before. And there is an energy that I can't remember feeling around the excitement that change could be coming, and that is really powerful. And I'm seeing people connect more intentionally with each other. I'm seeing people go for the breadth and depth of their experiences and relationships rather than just the surface things. There's been some intentionality there, and people are doing things to take care of themselves and to take care of others, and that's inspiring to me. On like a personal level, my wife and I bought a house, and
Yay!
Congrats!
Congratulations!
Thank you so much, Terri. The comment about credit is a real thing. It's a real thing.
It is.
Savings accounts and money. But our yard has looked like the Sandlot for months because of work. And now we're going to get grass. So what's bringing me joy is that I'll be able to, I can't go anywhere else. We can go outside in our yard and have a quarantine party. So, and when I say quarantine party, that means that no one else is there. So I'm looking forward to that. But I can't thank y'all enough. I can't thank you enough for being such a powerhouse panel. I'm so grateful for your time and the gems that you provided during this conversation. I've just really been taken by the kind of key takeaways around not only being authentic and being unapologetic and loving ourselves and being kind and extending those graces that we give to others to ourselves first. But that when we do those things, it allows us to show up for other people, and it allows us to do the work of kind of the Black feminist adage of lifting as we climb. So as we continue to move forward, we're bringing folks with us. We are creating access and opportunities to Z's point in ways that even a month ago we could have never imagined. So I'm so grateful for y'all. Lastly, this conversation may be ending, but it doesn't have to. If you go to the New York Liberty's Instagram page, you can actually find all of our social media handles on today's post, so that you can keep up with us and follow us. Yeah. I think, most importantly, what we're taking is that there's the power of telling our stories. And in many ways, all of your words have been a call to action and a call to courage. And I appreciate that, because when we tell our stories, we create space for others to do the same. And even during these really harrowing, challenging, trying, encouraging times within our community, I think our stories are really powerful. They can be healing spaces that capture our humanity and then fill us with hope. So I hope all of you keep blazing trails and telling stories, because all it takes is just one person to ignite this movement and one helper to make a difference. And to echo a lot of what you said, we are the ones that we've been waiting for. So I'm so glad to be in community and in solidarity with y'all. And this has been amazing.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. This was amazing.
Thank you.